Hello, ladies. Welcome back to Menopause on the Mic. I'm your host, Misti Graham, and today we're doing a total creative reimagining. Now, I want you to close your eyes and picture a world where the men in menopause isn't just a verbal coincidence, but a literal medical reality. Now, I know you know all about the man flu. When a man gets a mild head cold, he acts like he's been struck by a 14th century plague. He updates his life insurance, writes a goodbye letter to the dog, and expects a 24-hour nursing rotation for a 99.1-degree fever. Now imagine that same man facing decades of hormonal biological warfare. His wouldn't be a silent phase, it would be a global infrastructure project. We're talking federal funding, a National Awareness Month, and a dedicated Super Bowl commercial every year featuring a guy in cargo shorts, a t-shirt, and a backpack, smiling ever so slightly at a sunset while a narrator talks about the great transition. But before we get into the billion-dollar cures and national holidays, let's look at the very first time a high-powered executive realizes his internal thermostat has been hijacked by a glitch in the matrix, otherwise known as the power surge. So picture a guy leading a board meeting. He's mid-sentence talking about scaling the company, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, he's not just sweating, he's having a power surge. He doesn't just quietly fan himself with a folder. No. He stops the PowerPoint, stands up, and announces to the room that his system is experiencing a critical thermal override. Now, at this point, the meeting isn't just paused, it's full-on evacuated. The facilities department is summoned like it's an elite SWAT team. They don't just turn down the AC, they install a dedicated polar zone in his office with industrial-grade cooling fans, and the company hires a guy whose only job it is to follow him around with a handheld misting fan and a chilled eucalyptus towel. He'd start wearing a cooling vest under his suit and then tell everyone it's NASA-grade tech for high-output individuals. By Friday, he will have launched a line of high-performance, moisture-wicking power suits so he can sweat with the unearned confidence of a man who thinks his hormones are a sign of burning passion for the mission. He'd call his sweat liquid ambition. But they wouldn't just fix the office temperature. They'd find a way to make sure the entire world knew their internal fire was actually a sign of elite, top-tier, alpha-level productivity, otherwise known as the swag of the alpha. Now, he wouldn't just call it a hot flash. He'd call it the burn. Within 48 hours, there's a Fuel the Burn hashtag lighting up the internet, and a $150 candle that smells like expensive leather, old money, and distilled resilience. He'd wear a thick, overpriced hoodie while actively overheating just because it has the word alpha embroidered on the chest in a strong, manly font that suggests he's winning at the game. He'd turn his hormonal imbalance into a 12-part masterclass series about leadership under pressure, charging $5,000 a head for other men to learn how to harness the glow. He'd be on the biggest podcast talking about how the thermal intensity has actually made his brain more efficient, like a turbocharged engine that runs hot because it's just that powerful. He'd say, "I'm not sweating, Brad. I'm venting excess energy from my high-performance core. If you aren't dripping, bro, you aren't leading." And while he's busy selling the heat to the masses and charging for the privilege of watching him sweat, let's talk about the absolute existential meltdown that occurs the first time he misses 2 consecutive hours of sleep. We'll call this the 3 a.m. emergency response. A man with a night sweat isn't just a guy who needs to flip the pillow. He's a casualty of war. Just ask him. He wakes up at 3 a.m., heart pounding, but he doesn't just lie there. He calls his doctor's emergency phone line at home and demands a full cardiovascular workup. He'd have a specialized symptom tracker app that would ping his wife, his business partner, and his personal trainer every time he wakes up. By 9 a.m., he's checked into a sleep study facility with an adjustable Tempur-Pedic, a white noise machine tuned into Arctic tundra, and a team of technicians monitoring his brainwaves as if he's training to become an astronaut. The FDA would fast-track a drug called Max, and the commercial would feature a legendary retired NFL quarterback making mushroom coffee at dawn, looking restored, vigorous, and slightly heroic, while his golden retriever watches him with deep, soulful respect. It wouldn't be a struggle, it would be a recovery journey, sponsored by a major sports betting app and a luxury mattress company. And since he's now the face of the national sleep health crisis and has a commemorative pillow and mattress line, let's discuss the moment he realizes his actual masculine equipment is starting to fail him. This, my sisters, is called the libido emergency, Andro. If a man's libido took a 0.2% dip, it would be treated like a nationwide power grid failure during a blizzard. He wouldn't just be told to reduce his stress, drink more water, or try a new supplement. He'd call a press conference. Enter Andro Max, the first federally subsidized, high-potency male libido restorer designed to bring back the beast. Within 6 months, there would be 3 competing versions advertised during every single sporting event on the planet. And in a booming Sam Elliott type of voice, the message would read, "Reclaim your throne with Andro Max," while showing a man effortlessly sailing a yacht through a Category 4 storm without breaking a sweat. Insurance would label it as holistic and cover 100% of his Reigniting the Spark retreats at 5-star resorts in Sedona, complete with rock climbing and testosterone-friendly catering, without him having to make a single phone call to his provider. They'd also have libido concierge who curate massages, movies, and sexy scents to make sure his beast always stays awake. Now, with his physical equipment fully subsidized, insured, and celebrated by the boating community, he can now turn his attention to the fact that his body is literally shifting shape in the mirror. And so we move on to the recalibration project. When his waistline starts expanding the territory, he doesn't buy bigger pants and hide under a sweatshirt that's 3 sizes too big. No. He rebrands it as the recalibration. He hires a celebrity coach, writes a 3,000-word LinkedIn post about the evolving male silhouette and the gravity of wisdom, and lands on the cover of Men's Health magazine with the headline reading, "I found my strength in the shift." And when his lower back starts acting like it's 100 years old, a major auto brand launches a spinal support edition truck made specifically for men whose foundations are shifting. The truck comes with heated seats that double as a medical-grade massager that triggers every time he hits a pothole. He'd treat a stiff back like a classic Ferrari in need of a frame restoration, and his friends would look at his new ergonomic office chair and say, "Nice rig, Dave. Is that the 2026 Lumbar Pro? I heard it has independent suspension for the lower vertebrae." And of course, it's easy to rebrand a stiff back when you have a custom truck and a celebrity coach, but wait until he realizes he can't remember the name of the guy he's worked with for 10 years. The cognitive flux accommodations. If a man experienced brain fog, he wouldn't feel scattered. He'd be diagnosed with a manly medical term called cognitive flux. HR would immediately draft a workplace accommodation plan that includes shorter meetings and a personal assistant to help him find and use his words. He'd have a support group that meets at a high-end steakhouse to discuss their shared neurotransitional journey while eating truffle-infused fries and discussing the stock market. He'd walk into the kitchen, forget why he's there, and instead of just sighing and chalking it up to another brain fog moment, he'd call a neurospecialist to discuss his short-term memory retrieval benchmarks. And he'd book a $5,000 brain mapping session for the following morning. He'd also carry a focus pen, that supposedly uses magnets to keep his brain sharp, and he'd swear it works even though he's currently using it to stir his coffee and forgot it was a pen entirely. But if you think that office pods and truffle fries are nice, wait until you see the red carpet VIP treatment he gets at the clinic. We're going to call this the Andro Peak experience. Now, he walks into his doctor's office for his Andro Peak appointment. This is known as the premier gold standard concierge service for the aging male elite. Ladies, this isn't a waiting room. It's a lounge with leather chairs and a bar filled with top-shelf spirits. He has a color-coded binder with bullet points and a cover page titled, The Optimization of Me. The doctor doesn't ask if he's stressed. The doctor nods solemnly, shakes his hand like they're closing a multi-million-dollar merger, and orders a full hormone panel and a valet for his car. He leaves with a "You've Got This" folder featuring a man standing on a mountain peak looking like a Norse god. There's no pictures of him, hair blowing in the wind, laughing on a beach, in a flowered blouse and capri pants while eating a salad. It's all carbon fiber, mountain bikes, and optimized performance. They give him a hormone helper who texts him reminders and sends him motivational quotes from Stoic philosophers to ensure his ascension is on schedule. So with the doctor's blessing and a folder full of mountain climbing imagery, he's now free to take his hormonal journey to the global stage and make it everyone else's problem, which then becomes the vulnerability tour. A man getting choked up at an animal adoption commercial, you know the one with the slow piano music and the sad-eyed puppy in the rain, isn't emotional. He's courageous. If he sheds one single tear because that pit bull puppy looks misunderstood, he'd post a selfie on LinkedIn about the burden of the journey and the unseen battles of the modern man. And it would get 10,000 supportive reactions from other guys all over the world. He'd start a second podcast where he interviews other men about their emotional transitions while they all sit in a private oxygen bar disguised as a studio. If he gets the rage because the barista took too long or his favorite sports team lost, it's respected as transition intensity, and his bros simply give him grace, a beer, and a gentle pat on the back. He wouldn't be moody, he'd be deeply engaged with his evolving psyche. He'd carry a rage journal that's bound in bison leather and has the word strength stamped on the cover. So how would all this look on a global scale? Not through boring laws and regulations, but through a total cultural takeover that ensures he is never slightly inconvenienced. This is known as the 7-year revolution. Within 5 years, every major city would have a menopause bar. It's basically a high-end sports bar, but the temperature is always kept at a crisp 60 degrees and the seats are made of moisture-wicking cooling gel. Every table has a built-in fan and an executive pressure valve, which is basically a high-end punching bag that tracks your impact intensity and posts it to a leaderboard. Every office building would be required to have ice mist stations and a dedicated rage room where men can go break things and be irrationally angry in peace without being called difficult or aggressive. By year 10, it's fully normalized. Men talk about their year 3 of Andro Peak at barbecues and on golf courses while the world thanks them for their unwavering bravery. There would be national 5K races for the cause, but instead of running, all the men just cruise through in temperature-controlled, motorized recliners while a DJ plays Eye of the Tiger and pit crew members hand out individual sticks of beef jerky and trial-size cans of WD-40 at every mile marker. So ladies, let's be honest. If men had menopause, the world would be cooler, better funded, and frankly, a lot more dramatic. The menopause would be the most researched and celebrated event in human history. But since they don't, we'll just keep being the badasses of this movement, handling it with grit, humor, and the incredible sisterhood that they clearly do not have. So if this episode made you laugh and say yes about every man that you have ever known, please follow, download, share, and leave a review of the podcast. And be sure to send it to your friends immediately, because I'm pretty sure your group chat is full of stories about men who treat a paper cut like a battlefield injury. Until next time, my friends, this is Misti Graham, and this is Menopause on the Mic.